Good. Okay, so you're taking them around, everything, getting them all around. All right, good. I heard they were going to be in town, so we're happy to have them. Good. We'll get started in just a few minutes, but I want to at least say hello and meet everybody.
Yeah, but stealing tags. You think their job's easier than the other way? You're not old. You know, that's what it looked like. Oh, that's horrible. That was great.
Gonna be near an alley.
Sounds good.
You're the cool kid in class. How's it going?
Good, how about you?
Very cool.
Thank you.
All right, good morning. And I guess we got a chance to see we're a little bit different than most mornings. We have some guests here from Thailand today. I understand we have several journalists who are here, and they wanted to see sort of what we did in covering local government. So we said, come on down to our press conference. So we certainly appreciate y'all being here. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. Good. Well, not only that, today is the first day back to school. So I know we had that at our church the other day, blessing of the backpacks. It was interesting. They asked the kids how they felt about going back to school. Half of them were screaming yay, half of them were awe, and so it's always interesting. But we're back in school. Just remember that this means some of your daily commute, both in the morning and the afternoon, may change a little bit. Remember to be safe about kids walking to school, kids riding school buses. So again, just be cognizant of those things. I know Derek, I guess we're working on the improvements, getting those things out for on Langley, trying to remind you and widening out a little bit further your notification for the school zone area, and certainly trying to get you to slow down there. I think we've also have we implemented fully, or are we still in the process of getting implemented on all the schools?
We're still working on that. The flashing beacons were installed last week. Some of the controllers we're still tweaking. They should be flashing though, and I know that Langley is good to go.
Okay. Well, good. And we got a couple other schools that we're working on, so we got a lot of things happening today. As again, my second point here was about our friends from Thailand. We're very happy to have them here as part of the United States State Department, visiting several places in the United States, and we're certainly glad to have them here in Pensacola. While they're in the U.S., their objectives include exploring the role of journalists play in U.S. society, analyzing the impact of investigative journalism, and assessing the impact of social media and citizen journalism. So absolutely good things. This man right here in the striped shirt, he is I see his post all the time, so you can talk with him about his social media. So very good. Hopefully some of the journalists in the room will have a chance to communicate with them. I think it would be very helpful in sharing some experiences with our friends from Thailand. So I appreciate any time that you could dedicate to helping them. That's certainly good as well. Remember that tomorrow night we'll have the next FDOT workshop for the Cervantes Street pedestrian safety improvements. That'll be tomorrow at August 13th from 2 to 4 at the Fricker Center at 900 North F Street. Maps, drawings, and other information will be on display, and FDOT representatives will be able to discuss the planned improvements. So again, please take a chance to go by there. Derek, does that mean also is there one at night, or is it just the one during the day?
Just during the day.
Okay, just during the afternoon, 2 to 4. Okay. I apologize. I was thinking we had one at that night. Remember that August 15th, Thursday, will be it'll be City Hall Selfie Day. So we encourage you to come to City Hall, take a selfie, and post it on our City of Pensacola website. Casey and Allie will be taking care of that. I'm going to be out of town, but I'm sure I'll get PC. If I'm with PC, I know we'll get a selfie and we'll send one in. So we'll have one there. So we will have one there. Please, on your social media, use hashtag City Hall Selfie. City Hall Selfie Day is a nationwide effort engaging local government leaders to encourage citizen participation in local government. And they will be giving out prizes and other recognition to cities that show the most pride and creativity. You can learn more at our website, cityofpensacola.com. Again, that's City Hall Selfie Day, which is Thursday, August 15th. We're also excited to report that Pensacola Bay Cruises has sold about 33,000 tickets as they started operations in April. If you haven't had a chance to take a cruise, peak season runs through this Thursday. Then you'll only be able to get cruises on Friday and Saturday during the off season. You can view the schedule anytime online and book your cruise at PensacolaBayCruise.com. So again, these are all some of the things that are happening this week as we go forward. Again, I will be with some of the city administration. I know PC and myself will be at the Florida League of Cities in Orlando through Sunday and coming back to Pensacola on Sunday. So look forward to being a part of that. I had the opportunity to get on the board of the Northwest Florida League, so I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more and seeing a couple of other friends that I've gotten to know, other mayors across the state of Florida. So as we move forward into next year's legislative session, looking forward to that. Some of the things that happened last week, there were several important meetings. One, I met with, we went over to Chipley, Chris and I did, and met with Secretary Gaynor at DOT. Felt very good about some of the progress that we're making on some of the things. I thought it was very good. I think they were happy that we gave them street prioritizations that we actually voted on and said, hey, these are streets that we want you to prioritize after you get done with Cervantes. Start moving forward on these. So I thought those were very good. In case you haven't seen it, even Sherry Myers was very complimentary of DOT with the work they had done at the lights at the intersections. We talked about some more lighting and some other safety considerations. So I think we're going to see those things happen. It was a very positive meeting that we had with DOT. And again, I think we're going to see some things come to light as we move forward. One of which is a beautification effort that we're talking about doing. They have to spend 1.5% of what is spent on the bridge in beautification somewhere in the district. Obviously, they would like to do it here, but I mean, we could make a jungle on both the Gulf Breeze and Pensacola Landing and not spend 1.5% of what they've got. So what we talked about was, we did talk about some of the things that we wanted to open up the medians. I think if you went to see something that they had the other day, they talked about several of the medians were closed medians. I mean, that were concrete. And what we've asked them to do is open up their concrete and allow us to plant some things, monkey grass, stuff like that, things that are low maintenance kind of opportunities to put, much like you see on the bayfront, where we put the palmettos and some other things in there that are lower maintenance, that we can kind of go through and I forget what it's called, mule grass, whatever it is. You know, it looks real pretty in the fall. I forget what the name of that was, but anyways, that's we're going to put some of that stuff out there. Native plants don't need a lot of watering, but they actually they take out some of the concrete. They'll take out some of the heat. They'll also put in some green, some other green infrastructure. So again, from our standpoint, we think this will be better off. But at the same time, they said they'll have a considerable amount of money. We talked to them about looking. There are 2 islands at 9th and in Creighton, which are 2 state roads. That we looked at how we can do beautification there. Also, I talked with Robert Bender because obviously the Bermuda Triangle is a DOT piece that sits right there, and is there something we could do for beautification there? And I talked with Robert about that and told him my conversations with the district secretary, and they were very agreeable to that. Also, Sherry will be very happy to know we did talk about doing some more, we could plant some more trees and do some things in that right-of-way area between Olive and the interstate as an entranceway into on 9th Avenue as an entranceway into the north end of the town. So again, they were very receptive to putting in some of the stuff, maybe similar to what they did. I know there was a project they did right there on the west side of the Rave Theater on Brent Lane. That was a DOT landscaping project that put some stuff in there. And again, we certainly dealt with them on some beautification. So I think what we're looking at is we'll continue to see other safety improvements happen. We'll continue to see other lighting come together. And again, I think these meetings have been fruitful for us as we move along. Obviously, still one of the biggest things we continue to do is deal with outstanding funding on the ST technologies or the ST engineering for the hangars at the airport. And I do think over time we may see some additional monies be able to go there. We did talk about that, so it was a very productive meeting. Also, last week I did have the chance to meet with the U.S. Attorney's Office. They came in town. We had a good meeting. Most of which we talked about is what they look to do and what they can bring to the table in working with our people and dealing with gun violence. The other thing that was really big was they talked about the opportunity for us to be participating with federal grants, both in terms of some training dollars, which we knew, but they also talked about there were neighborhood grant programs to invest back in your neighborhood and improve the quality of life for the citizens that live there. We continue to talk about ways that we get people actively involved in things that move them away from crime. And I think that was very interesting to know that those were also a possibility. I didn't know that until Thursday, that their grant funding could be used for some programs like that in their safe neighborhoods. So again, that was a good discussion, and we're going to keep moving forward with those things. We also I did meet with obviously the Dream Defenders last Friday. We had a very I thought productive meeting. We certainly didn't agree on everything. But I think we're moving forward on some things. And then lastly, I just want to say and be very clear here, I very much appreciate the work that all of our men and women do in the Pensacola Police Department. They do an excellent job. It's unfortunate that obviously things happen and there was an error, but again, those every day they go out there and do an incredible job of doing what they're doing, and they have a very tough job. Obviously, I was going at the first week of August when we had the person that they had to chase down, the bipolar individual with the hit and run. I mean, it's a difficult job when you have to do that, and there are a lot of things that have to be done to take care of public safety. And I appreciate what they do every single day. We continue to keep trying to work with them. We do think there are ways, though, that we can improve that relationship. And I said this before, I think they do a great job of doing what they do. There is a perception sometimes that things don't happen in it all over, and we're trying to change that perception. But I do think I want to be very clear in case it was, I said that and I thought Jim did a good job of saying, I tried to say it was perception, but I do believe our men and women in the Pensacola Police Department do an excellent job, and it's a tough job they have to do, and I appreciate the work that they do every day protecting us and creating public safety. So I certainly appreciate all those things. Now I've done with my stuff, so what are your questions?
When you say there was an error,
Well, I mean, obviously, there were things that we didn't want to happen. I don't think any of us, as I said before, I don't think any of us wanted to see the shooting that took place. I don't think that was where we wanted this to go. When the officers were making their traffic stop and going forward, that's not, I think, what their end goal was. Somehow we got to that point, and we're trying to work through that and figure out as soon as we get back from DOE, as I said earlier, Tommy, and then we'd look at it and figure out from their standpoint. But my point is, it's created obviously some tension, and we're feeling that, but we're working through it. I still think they do an incredible job every day.
So, I mean, when you call it an error,
well,
misspeak, or?
I would like to characterize it as it wasn't an intended result that we wanted to achieve.
Last week you said you would be looking into a civilian advisory board to oversee the police department. I thought the police department already had civilian oversight in the form of the mayor's office and city council.
It does, but we had a committee that actually looked at one time that dealt with this stuff. I think I was told back in the 90s and 2000s we had something. I think it's certainly always good to look at how things are being done, how we're progressing, and if we need to bring together a citizen committee, much like we did back in the 90s. Again, I'm not opposed to doing something like that. Again, my whole point was to sit down with the Dream Defenders and say, where are things where we can find agreement, and where can we find things that we can do? And my understanding is the city's done that before. But I agree with you that ultimately the citizen oversight is the city council and the mayor's office. So I think there is that. But at the same time, if we need to have a citizens group evaluate what we're doing with our policing and how we can be better, I mean, I'm open to that anytime. I mean, again, we always want to be better. When I met with the police officer and said, I'm not being critical of what happened there. I think every day we should look at it and say, how can we be better? Certainly in the mayor's office, we try to figure out every day we could be better. And I might have used the wrong word earlier, saying error, so I tried to correct myself and be better. So I guess we're working on that every day as well. Yes.
Besides the civilian oversight committee, what else did y'all discuss?
Training. We did discuss training, and again, making sure that we had dealing with the diversity training and understanding those things. There's questions as to how much of it was practical, how much of it was classroom training versus how much of it might be practical. I thought the other day at the council meeting, the gentleman that came up to the mic and said, hey, we'd like to know who our police officers are in our neighborhoods. We think there ought to be something out there quarterly to go out there. We had just finished the National Night Out, which was a great night. The police did that with the sheriff's office. I thought it was very well attended, and I thought it was great to see the police and the sheriff's office out there. We should do more of those. Tommy certainly has people getting out, but maybe we need to do a more concerted effort of having the police officers in their individual beats being involved in neighborhood activities. And so as we look at that, what that is, I think going to class and training is important, but doing that once a quarter I didn't think was important as maybe us training and then actually practically going out and doing. I think sometimes the best training you get is actually engaging and learning from it. So, and I will say, I thought Jamel said the same thing. He thought that there's a practical level of getting out in the field that might be better. So again, we're sort of still trying to look at how that shapes out, but we've absolutely committed to some portion of that, and we believe a portion of it will be in the field, getting together with neighborhoods. I mean, so the neighbors know the police officers that will be in that neighborhood, and they develop a rapport and a relationship. I think that's going to be critical for us moving forward. Again, I also say, and I continue to say this because I want to say this out there, especially to anybody that's thinking about doing it, the long-term approach about where we go with this, we need more good quality individuals in the African American community who want to be police officers. If you have a desire to do it, if you think you'd like to serve, if you like to help people, we'd love to work with you and get you involved and figure out a career path for you. Whether it's in our fire department, whether it's in our police department, whether it's in something here at City Hall. Again, you may not become Jeff Bezos rich, but I think you can make a good living, and you can do positive things for your community and make your community better. I don't think we've done a real good job of trying to figure out how to do that kind of recruitment for jobs here at City Hall. I do think one of the things that we've seen is that program that we've done this past year. We opened up with the intern program. I know that we had 2 interns at the Pensacola Police Department. The other day when Lumen had his event at the county chambers, I know one of the girls that interned there came in and she said, before I went here, I wasn't sure about this because I didn't really have a very high opinion of where the police were. But now after I've done it and I see what they do and I see what goes on here, I had a really good experience, and I would love to come back and do something like that. So again, how we can do that and get more kids interested in looking at what's there. Because again, I think it is a perception disconnect. I would say this: to the, whenever you're dealing, I asked the group before we started the other day, I said, look at this card. We were at a round table. So half the table could see this side and half the table could see the side I see. I said, what do you see? I got them to read what was on their card. And I said, well, that's not, I talked to everybody on my side. I said, what do you see? And we said we saw something totally different. I said, but neither of us was lying because the card is different and we can only see what we're seeing from the perspective that we are. The idea of getting in and having that opportunity to interact and see a different perspective and gain and learn, I think is just as critical in everything. I mean, that's what makes everybody who says when these issues that we deal with are tough, like race, it's because it's tough because you have two certain valid descriptions. You can't say the other side is not valid. What you saw on this side of the card is just as valid as what's seen on the other side of the card. So it's how you figure out and work those two together for those two perspectives. So again, we're going to keep working on that. We're going to keep trying to do better at that because I think the most critical part is we have to be all of Pensacola. We have to be together as we move forward. If we do that, we're going to be very successful. Yes?
Now, seeing that our law enforcement are not trained psychiatrists, what kind of training does the police department have to deal with mental health issues? And the reason I ask that is because more and more is coming out that we're just not paying that much attention to mental health and how it relates to a lot of the things that we're dealing with.
Admiral, great question. I will say the first chance I had to meet with several of my colleagues at the League of Mayors, first time I had a chance to meet several of the mayors was in Tallahassee this spring, and we were up on the fourth floor there, right between the two chambers, and we had an event there, and we left from there and we went to a place. It's called Appalachia. It's kind of like Lakeview. It's Tallahassee's version of Lakeview. And we went there and we discussed this. And as we went around the room, whether it was dependency issues on drugs and other alcohol and other dependent, or whether it was just things like the gentleman that was bipolar, everyone that went through that, every mayor that went through and talked about things had the same problems in their community. And the issue was, as I've said this when I was at the Florida Association of Counties, we kept saying, legislature, you need to put more money into mental health. The reason we were saying that is because what we saw in our jails were becoming mental health institutions. Our jails are expanding, not because they're so much just taking care of criminals. I mean, they certainly to an extent do that, but they also house a number of people that we couldn't house anywhere else because of mental health issues. And the reason is the legislature has stepped away from that. So, I'm going to say the same thing when I go down to see him this week that I said when I was in this spring. We need to be telling the legislature it would help cities, counties, citizens of the state of Florida if you invested more money in mental health. We would wholeheartedly agree with you there. That's going to be a solution, I think, as we move forward. As far as training specific officers, I know we have some of that. Again, what we're trying to do right now is doing as much train the trainer as we can. We like I think Chief Leiter said, we've lost a lot of seniority. Our train the trainers have retired, but we're trying to bring in new people and get some things. That's part of it. Is how do we train, how to take care of, how to notice that. It was one of the challenges I know we had at the jail that was very significant. Rand, good to see you. But again, one of the challenges we had there, so it's no different. I think it's something that's incumbent upon all of us in local government to tell the Florida legislature they need to invest more money in mental health. Jim.
What's your impression of the morale like in the Pensacola Police Department?
You know, I think they're a little confused in all this. They've probably felt a little beaten up, and I certainly understand the challenges that are in there. I think we have good law enforcement people. If you go and meet with them, and it's like anything else, I talk to people and they'll talk about one-on-one, they have very good relationships, but then it's one of those things where an incident like the Crawford shooting happens and it becomes an impact on the whole thing. I still look at what they do every single day, and it's unfair because they're judged by what happens on one event. They're not judged by what happens today if nothing happens. I mean, it's like what happens in local government. Nobody comes and pats you on the back because everything ran well and it was perfect. You did what you're supposed to do, but that's what happens. I think they have a very tough job. I think they do a great job in it. we are trying to work very hard. We've got a budget that invests a considerable amount of more in compensation for them. Trying to pay them more, trying to train them more, trying to invest in them and make it a place they want to work. But obviously, when these kind of events happen, it becomes challenging for them. But there's no doubt there is a problem that we're having in working through how that happens in relations, and I want to be a part of the solution, and I want to work with the police to make that happen. I don't. What I get from the police, from Tommy at his level, the chiefs at his level, all the way down, is they want to be better. Again, I think it's one of those things where we're going to continue to work, and it's going to be a part of that. We're just going to have to figure out. I think some of these things, like the quarterly opportunities to get out in the neighborhood, I think those will help. I think if we can get people to that's what I continue to hear when I've been in some of these neighborhoods. They say, it used to be we knew the people. They were here. They were in the neighborhood. Now they just drive through in a car, and I never see them other than when I see the police car come through. It's one of the things we've talked about with all the additional infrastructure going into biking. We've talked about what do we do and how do we get some bike patrols. And I think that was what Tommy wants to do when he gets up to this next level of recruits come up, and they'll be where we need to be. I think he'd like to establish some bike patrols, and so that the officers are there, more accessible than just being in a car. It's like everything else. How do we create that human? We've gotten so efficient with what we have. We sometimes forget we're talking about a human concept still, human relationships, and we just need to make sure that the police, that human relationship is still a part of it.
When I'm watching this relationship between you guys and PPD and the Dream Defenders, it just feels like a lot of the things Dream Defenders is pushing for in general, aside from the particular case, are at odds with what PPD is doing. Like, they don't want policing of minor possession amounts of marijuana, but the ability to do that has really decreased crime, and they don't want police presence, but that has really decreased the homicide rate. And, race training. Well, the PPD has been doing that, and they've led on tracking and training, and they had body cameras before anybody had body cameras. So I'm trying to figure out in my head where you think PPD is at with regards to the Dream Defenders, kind of what they're trying to accomplish.
I think what we said in the whole thing, there are things that we can't do with what Dream Defenders have asked us to do. I mean, we said, some of the issues we're not going to be able to get to, but let's figure out the things we could do. We agree training is part of it and how we become more accessible. So I think part of that is there are opportunities for us to establish, again, that human connection, being in the neighborhoods a little bit more. So again, as we sit there and talk, we talked for 2.5 hours. Now it's interesting, and I loved, there was a few comments, everybody was upset about the Channel 3. Remember, that was less than a minute of a 2.5 hour conversation. So I can assure you it was not that cordial the entire time that we went through. Not that it wasn't cordial, but I'm not saying we agreed to everything. And I think Jim was very accurate in his article. He said where I said we not going to agree on everything. We didn't agree on everything. What we looked for were places we could agree and what we could do to make that going forward. Again, I appreciate what they've come forward. I said I can't do everything that you're asking. They're just not going to be things that we think are going to be productive for where we're going. But I think within the set of what they're asking for, there are ways to make things better. I want to improve the perception of what we're doing. I want us to do that, and I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think the PPD is a problem with that. I mean, I think they would like to have a better perception of what they're doing, and sometimes it's just not understanding what they're doing. Yes.
What are your thoughts on the Dream Defenders' position that this task force is going to be counterproductive insofar as community relations or minimizing conflict and police encounters, that kind of stuff?
I think at the end of the day, the opportunity for us to have federal resources that work with it, we're going to be policing anyways. I mean, it's not like we're going to be getting away from policing. In fact, they said, hey, bring all the efforts you can bear to find the person that's guilty of the Elizabeth Harris killing. So I'm not sure where I see what you're saying, what they're saying. I mean, they clearly said that. Jonathan Green has posted all over his stuff about that. So, I mean, if that's what they want us to do, then then they should welcome what we're trying to do here. I mean, that's what we're trying to make happen. So, again, sometimes I think we create conflicts that aren't necessarily there. If the idea is we really all want justice, if we want the people who have perpetrated acts of violence to be brought to justice, then let's work through it. It's not going to be, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, I'm just saying it's going to be work. So I think we're going to continue to try to work.
They, in their, comments to council, they mentioned the video. Did y'all discuss that at all?
The video related to, well, we have,
Not the police body cam video, but the Dream Defenders mentioned they have a video. Did y'all discuss this at all?
again, we didn't discuss any of that. They did ask about when we plan to bring everything forward from that, and we discussed that at this point it's still an FDLE. What I was told was when they're finished, we would hope to have that. And again, if something happens, we plan to make a presentation of it. Now again, if something were to happen, I don't think it's going to happen this week, but if it was to happen this week and I'm out of town, we probably would wait. It's not that we're trying to sit on it, but we'd like to all be here when it happens. So again, I don't know any reason that it might happen this week, but if it did, we'd probably wait till next week. But if, otherwise, we're very clear about wanting to have something that we can make a presentation, work with the community, and be as open as possible. I see Mr. Powell in the back. We've been talking about a group of getting together to work through that and show that and say where we are and be very open with it when that evidence is available and able for us to share with the media. But again, at this point we don't control that. When it comes to us and they say here it is and you can share it, we plan to share it. As far as anybody else's, I mean that's up, that's anybody does anything else. We just have the evidence we have. We won't be doing anything with it until we can share it.
On the FDOT stuff,
Yes.
I thought you said 1.5%. So by my math, that's $6 million that they have to spend on local beautification. Is that right?
Correct. Within District 3, correct. Which is why I said you could make both landings a jungle and still not have spent all the money. So that was why I went to Secretary Gaynor. I said, hey, there's no way you're going to be able to spend all, which he had already told me. And I said, could we spend this in other areas in the city of Pensacola? And he said, yeah. He said, I'd be happy to look at some of these things. Obviously, his big thing is we'll put it in. It's your job to maintain it. So again, I think what we want to look at is everything requires maintenance, but some things require less maintenance than others. And so we're looking at some of those plants. I think that grass, again, in the palmettos that you see at Bayfront, I mean, we have to go in there and cut those palmettos down, but for the most part, some of that stuff is low, kind of less intensive greenery. The good thing is that's less concrete. If I can, it solves stormwater, it solves heat issues. It just makes everything better if I can turn that green rather than just leave it all concrete.
Well, I remember from I think it was Citicon or maybe it was the scape stuff, but the at-level runoff into the landscaping where it's not going away and you have to process it, it becomes part of the irrigation system is just a brilliant tiny little thing.
That's what we're planning to do. I mean, and that's been one of the good things that we've talked about. Obviously, that's why we want the rain to catch all that stuff and then have plants that would soak it up. But you always got to worry about when you don't have rain. That's why we want to have plants that are localized to this area. I did meet the other day, last week, with a group from the Audubon Society and the Native Plant Society, and they want to get a grant and do some things over here at Bruce Beach. And we were like, hey, we love it. We think everything that goes back in the plantings there should be native plants. Not only is it from our perspective easier to take care of and maintain, but it also enhances the things that are already here. I mean, little things like the bugs that are here. The Audubon Society is very interested because they want the right insects to come here because the insects are for the birds to eat and the right birds. And we hope that we'll see birding. I mean, you'll have a chance to have uplands, wetlands, and the open water all at Bruce Beach. So we talked about what we'd love to have happen. We're talking about programming. We'd love for the Audubon Society to come down and provide opportunities for both citizens and visitors to go around and see the birds that we plan to have there. So I think when you look at what's out in the water in front of there in the marshland, as well as the uplands, what we have, the regular birds in the uplands, I think it's a great opportunity for us to see that, and it's a great opportunity to partner with a programming group that would help us at Bruce Beach. Well, I thank you all again for being here today. I hope any of you that are journalists, Jim, you got here late. We have a whole bunch of a group of people here from Thailand. They're here to talk about journalism. So if you have a chance to sit down with them, they'll probably learn more from you than they will from me. But I appreciate it. Thank you very much.